What is going on, everybody? I know you thought it was over, but just like this Florida Panthers parade that never seems to end, I thought I would give you guys a nice closing video to finalize this 2024-2025 NHL season. Obviously, they're like most seasons and most families and friendships, there were some ups and downs, but I brought Josh on here because we did a season preview video where we talked about a couple things, and our guy Carlo, who's smiling up in the back over there, somehow predicted the rookie of the year with Lane Hudson. Now, I think we will look kind of in the rear view mirror, something that they tell you not to do in life. You got to live life looking through the front windshield. Don't look. And I'm a big rear view looker. I'm always seeing how my ex looks on Instagram. I need to see what's going on behind me. But I want to look at a couple things at this past season, because obviously they're going to play a part looking forward to next season. I mean, and this is everything from the features that are offered on different sportsbooks and what happened from sportsbooks to sportsbook along the way. And if you're just one of those single sportsbook bettors, maybe you should pay attention, because maybe you saw what happened yesterday. Josh, did you see what happened yesterday in that sport that I really never watch, but that thing that happened on Fanduel with a bunch of home runs and a parlay? Did you happen to see that online?
I'm not 100% vested in it, but like they changed the terms and conditions, right? And the wording is scary, but at the end of the day, until they actually execute it, that's the only part that matters. So yes, it's interesting to see, and I do think that the verbiage is a little ambiguous, where you can kind of get away with a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything unless they hold up that. So we'll certainly hear about it when they do, because someone will be complaining, and it'll be very interesting to see, because it could set a precedent. It's Fanduel. I mean, Fanduel is talking about the 50-cent thing in Illinois as well too. So there's a lot going on in terms of what Fanduel is. The book will always try to protect itself. And there's situations, right? Like
they may be bordering on SCAM-duel. They may be bordering on SCAM-duel if they execute this. So anyway, by the way, if you guys don't know what happened, I don't pay too close attention to these things, but obviously between the Patreon, even though I don't bet baseball other than Josh's picks, and I don't really watch, apparently what happened here, FanDuel lost over $2.2 million on an enormously circulated home run parlay that ended with James Woods, not the actor, hitting a home run versus the punch. So somebody on one these betting sites or whatever gave a miracle pirate parlay, the one I'm going to call you an absolute donkey for playing every single time. I'm talking, it was one of those that requires multiple screenshots to send your friend. You can't even fit it on a single screenshot. And every one of these home runs hit, so much to the point where $10 paid out $100,000.
But they paid everybody out. At the end of the day, they paid everybody out on that. So regardless of how the new terms and services looks, it really doesn't have any pending action right now. But like I said, we'll wait. And it's funny, right? Like, where does that stop? And like,
well, Josh, the reason I bring that up,
FanDuel, they want you to bet this, they want you to bet that, they want you to bet that. Is that not like a highly circulated parlay pick?
I don't get it. If me and you love the top line on the Kings, we love ourselves a little Big Slick, and we both talk about it in the video. Oh, great matchup. They've been feasting lately. Let's get, or the Marchand line, and then so many people play the Marchand line in the playoffs, and they hit. You had the absurd stat on it. How many times in the playoffs did it hit?
50 units, man. It's like just under 500%, but for 50 units.
So then, it's weird. Where do they draw the line? But I guess, like Josh said, we will, just kind of keep one crooked eye on it to see, because, enforcement of that policy will essentially, be the worst PR they can ever do. But anyway, it's just one of the many things that we're trying to kind of pay attention to, because as the season went on, as me and you gave out more and more and more line combinations and kept emphasizing that was the absolute best way to continually be profitable in the NHL. We saw some sports books tinkering with those odds all season long. So much to the point where it was like, okay, they legitimately can't even be played on DraftKings anymore. But then, so you're like, oh, wow, I guess the feasting period was over. But then all of a sudden, you see Fanatics introduce player points at the very end of the season in the playoffs. And then DraftKings now is like, oh, and they bumped the odds back just a little bit. Not enough to the point where you're excited about it. It's just funny, this little tug of war that's going on, especially in a sport like hockey, as I like to say, like the Achilles heel of the sportsbooks, because it's so weird and it's not as heavily bet as the other ones. So these are the types of things that I believe that when the season starts, you should just start clicking on buttons and know if something's good and know if something's not. But if you have been watching our videos long enough, I'm pretty sure you are there. So I guess we'll work in like memento fashion here, meaning we'll start from the end and maybe work our way back. When it comes to the playoffs, Josh, were there any takeaways for you?
Accidental depth versus real depth, obviously, in Edmonton versus Florida, where they're like, well, Edmonton's got great depth. Adam Henrique's playing well. You're like, no, like these guys are just being wildly lucky in terms of maybe getting good matchups because everyone's trying to shut down 97 and 29. But it's not even close to that depth. That depth, I don't know if we'll ever see it again, because that's what happens when you win. That's what happens when you go to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. You got to pay people, right? It's the issue that happened with the Chicago Blackhawks in the Taves days, right? Guys like Brent Seabrook had to get paid. That blue line absolutely had to get paid. They lost goalies. That was the difference. That third line was incredible. I don't know. That's where it was. Bob was Bob, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you credit for saying that Bob did his absolute collapse again in the finals while being a leading contender for the Conn Smythe yet again.
It's not fair. I even said this about Martin Brodeur. It's not fair when you play with a defense and system like that in front of you that you kind of get credit for. I mean, we've seen Barry Trotz take Braden Holtby and make him a Vezina nominee. We've seen him make Robin Leonard. Anyway, that's a whole separate combo. But as far as the Edmonton Oilers fake depth, yeah, it was a group of people, as I called them, career floaters on a magical run, and any given day that could come to an end. But it still was wild to see Edmonton just mop up Dallas and Vegas like it was no big deal.
Maybe the West sucks, right? Maybe the West kind of sucks. We think they're good, but they're not.
It's just a weird... I talked about the kryptonite theory. Every single team in the playoffs who had to play the team they lost to the previous year, or the previous year before that, lost again. You could start in round 1. Devils got waxed by Carolina 2 seasons back, or I guess now technically it's... Now, let's still call this season. Let's call this one we're talking about this season. 2 seasons ago, waxed them in 5. This year, waxed them in 5. You had Tampa and Florida, beat them in 5 last year, beat them in 5 this year. Edmonton Kings, beat them again. You had Stars, Avalanche, Stars beat them again. You had Oilers, Stars, Oilers beat them again. Avalanche, Oilers, Panthers beat them again. There is a psychological factor, and I've thought this about every single sport. It is really hard to beat a team who plays with the confidence of knowing that they already beat you, and that's just something that I think maybe came into play with some of those series. Like, I have no doubt that Colorado was better than Dallas, but they just lost that series. Like,
Colorado's not that good, man. I don't think like the pivot in that team is whether or not Val Nichushkin can play at an elite level, because he seems to be the difference. But the secondary scoring on that, like Brock Nelson is a nobody. That. Like he's not a top 6 guy. He's more of a third line guy. That's not the guy you want driving it. There wasn't a lot outside of that top line, and then you bring in Landeskog, who maybe for one game you're like, that's exciting, but was he really at a level to play hockey?
Well, dude, if the West is bad, what the hell is the East? What the hell is the Metro?
Okay? That's it. Yeah, keep it to the Metro for sure.
Josh, I don't know what interviews you go on. I don't know where you end up. I don't know what shows bring you on. But for the love of me, if I see one more show complain about the Carolina Hurricanes being Stanley Cup favorites, do they understand? It doesn't mean that they're the best team. It means they have the easiest route. It's every year. It's just killing me. It's just killing me. Nobody thinks they're better than the Panthers. They think that they get to play 2 scam teams, and then you can hedge against your Stanley Cup bet once you get to the conference finals. I mean,
No, you're right.
you get what I'm saying? Like every Canadian
it's,
or
yeah.
whatever announcer, they're like, Carolina's the favorite. So anybody who wants to know why Carolina is always the Stanley Cup favorite is because the Metro for many years now has been the scam division that it always has been.
Was that Florida's easiest opponent through 4 series? Carolina? Carolina the easiest, Tampa Bay, Edmonton, and then Toronto.
They're the easiest because they do what they do.
They're easy to match up.
It's like saying like, oh, they play my game, but aren't. It's like I'm not going to have to switch my game because they do what we do, and we know we have the better squad to do it.
Yeah,
like those.
They're not a very valuable team. They can't really change on the fly. Like Brendan Moore is a good coach for that system, but like they can't mix things up. They can't make drastic changes with that group in terms of, okay, now we're on the road. Okay. We're at home. Now we need to shut down. I'm trying to think of a Florida example, but you can't even shut down a Florida line because you still get another line on you.
Exactly. I will say this about them. If it's not for Florida, I'm telling you, like their style beats pretty much everybody. It really can. I mean,
Freddie Anderson's a trash goalie, but they made him look like a decent goalie.
Yeah, and that's another more proof. But if I'm Carolina, I like what Brendan Moore said when he got eliminated. He goes, like, change the style. He goes, what do you think they're doing over there? He goes, they're getting the puck in. They're hard on the forecheck. They're trying to be aggressive. They're trying to step up. And I was like, thank you, Brendan Moore, for making these people realize that they're absolute donkeys. With them, I think they just got to stay on course. Stankoven looked fantastic for them. You know, they're trying for this hurdle thing, or maybe they'll try for more. They know what the deal is. They know they're a couple players short. But one thing about them that they don't have, that Florida has, that I see many of these, whatever you want to call them, mini dynasties have, is these trees on defense and just this overall size. And
Michael looks scary, man. Ekblad. I didn't think Seth Jones was like a big boy, right? I thought Seth Jones was just like a PP1 dainty guy. And then all of a sudden you're like, boy's thick. Forsling shut down McDavid. It was Forsling and Barkov, just one of the best defensive skaters, like behind Makar. And it's insane. Now you're starting to see, what's that? You're seeing Balinskis. So then you have like Balinskis and you have
come on, they kicked off the free agents already.
Yeah, the free agents are already gone. The free agents are already gone. Right, but they have depth. They have depth, and like Mackie Samoskevich didn't even skate in that. That was a guy who was playing like top 6 Evan Rodriguez style. So they still have some pipeline stuff.
So I was actually thinking about something. I saw somebody comment to you. There have been quite a few mini dynasties, weirdly enough, since like 2000-ish. Of these teams who won more than one Stanley Cup, Chicago, LA, Tampa, Florida. Did I miss one? Or that's all?
That's all I can think of.
Where do you put Florida?
Top. The top. By far. Okay.
And I'm right there with you.
They're changing everything in hockey. They're changing how teams need to build out, how teams need to play from games 1 to 82 and 82 after. They're showing that division standings mean absolutely fucking nothing because you can get a fucking soft Toronto team in the second round as a division winner. You see it in every other sport, copycat stuff, and it takes 3 Stanley Cup finals to be like, okay, like I understood 2, but now we all have to pretty much do that, or what could be left.
There is one team who I had to think about saying I could see them if they played in 4 series, I could see it going 2-2. Which team do you think, when you look at those, and now look, this is all opinion really. There are people who think, Sidney Crosby's little, small, skilled Penguins who got taken to 7 by the Hamburglar are going to, beat this team that stopped McDavid in his prime skill. But I see one team that's built just like them. And they had multiple lines, and they had big boys on defense, and they had an athletic goalie who could make a random weird split save. And I'm talking about Jonathan Quick would be a good series. If you remember, Kings team in 2014, their third line It may have been that 70s line with like Carter, Toffoli, and I think Tanner Pearson. Like they had Kopitar and Gabrick, and they had Dustin Brown. They had so many forwards where you never felt like you could take a break. So I think that would have been, and they had so many big guys too. That would have been quite a series. I think when those are my 1-1A teams in there.
No, I agree with you. And then add in Mr. Game 7 too. There's a lot of depth, a lot of different talent within that team, right? You had grinders, you had good D, you had a young Drew Doughty. No, Drew Doughty was that early Drew Doughty too, right?
He won a Norris right around there, and that's when Muzzin was really good. He's probably not the best guy to bring up.
No, but he was though. Like that was a dangerous group, well coached team. That's the only one I'd put them ahead of. Basically, the Tampa team that they tried to run back this year with Cirelli and Hagel minus Stamkos. There wasn't much difference in that lineup, I don't think. Than that, I don't know. But I think when we look back on it and like how Tampa Bay made those runs, right? Like, were they the first to put Kucherov on LTIR? Like they were the first to abuse the system for their number one player to give him a run to go into the playoffs?
So everybody's pointing to the state taxes thing when the way clearer issue is it's not the state taxes that are bringing these Stanley Cup championships. There is just LTIR after LTIR after LTIR, which is allowing teams to have this great third line player or big extra defenseman.
To bring in a Seth Jones, man.
Did they do it with Kane? Because I remember when everyone complained about Kucherov, I remember the classic retort was, yeah, nobody said this when the Blackhawks did it with Patrick Kane. We have seen that. I mean, I'd imagine they're going to address this.
You'd hope so. You'd hope they'd address it, but they're not going to be able to bring it in next year, right? We were talking off air about the Leafs probably should have done it with 34, with Matthews, because he was banged up, and they were more caught in that game of we need to win the division so we don't have to play Florida in the first round, because they were terrified to do that. They wanted to face Tampa Bay, or they didn't want to finish in the 2 spot, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's ripe for another year of being abused.
Especially when you consider what you brought up before we started recording, when you combine the fact that you can get the LTIR and potentially added rest after we just saw 2 teams in the final who literally threw away the final month of the season to make sure that they were rested for the Stanley Cup playoff run, the full Stanley Cup playoff run. And then we saw both of those teams go to the Stanley Cup final. In a copycat kind of league, you're going to have some teams doing this next year. Absolutely. Especially teams with veteran players.
Yeah, because home ice means next to nothing right now. You looked in the second round. Every series price was favored substantially from the visitors, who didn't get a home game until game 3. Even the Edmonton series. I mean, they had closed at a pick'em, I believe, but they opened up like minus 120. So there wasn't a lot of reason for home ice. It was usually like 25 cents, 30 cents in terms of from neutral to home. But I wouldn't do it. You pick up someone like Seth Jones at the deadline, right? Like that is a major top 7 piece.
You know what was crazy to me? Like, and I'll still never understand with the NHL playoffs it's really wild to see it. But during the season, I always say every team has a certain percentage of mail-ins where you could have included the Panthers versus the Sharks in your 5-game parlay because you needed a 5th leg or something like that. And they don't just lose. They can lose like 6-1. There's a certain amount of mail-ins that happen. That Edmonton Game 5 performance, what was that? It looked like nobody was skating. Like, how does that happen in the NHL? It's so weird to me that any given night, it could be like, oh, they got me. It was one of those roulette zeros where they're just not trying tonight. Lost that bet. Don't you find that weird that
Florida
happens?
did it Toronto twice in games 5 and game 7. It was bad, man. But like you just see, whether it's the players or whether it's Maurice, just how the longer the series goes, and this isn't back on the thing of like Paul Maurice saying, hit them so they know we're in game 7. No, they just adapt to your and take away everything the longer the series goes. You can't play your game in games 5, 6, 7. And you pointed out the power play. Like if you can shut down all those elite power plays, and it's such a cool thing. I was watching a lot of the TNT stuff, and I did enjoy it a bit more than the Canadian broadcast. The pressure that they have on the on the penalty kill to the opposing power play, they're basically gambling, saying, "Yeah, we'll give you maybe an open look, but you're going to have to make 3 really hard passes to get it before you even have a chance." And then that chance is what, maybe 25% high danger chance at its best. So you're going to have to earn it.
It's so funny because if you just cut that clip and said, who is he talking about? Once again, that is straight up the Carolina approach. Just like charge at your guy aggressively, yet they just get the bad press, man. But I do got to say, for a defensive team, theoretically, man, did Florida score a shit ton of goals these playoffs. What a semi-juggernaut. And what's your take on next year? You think they could...
I think there's a better chance they don't make the playoffs than like if they do, then win 2 series.
Yes.
Right?
It's just it takes something out of you.
For sure.
It just truly does. I mean, there's only so much you could rest these guys.
We have Olympics too next year, right?
Oh my God.
Over the exact same break, like the Valentine's Day.
And they have so many players who go too.
Yeah, that's what happens when you win. You want winning people on your lineup.
My younger brother asked me yesterday, he goes, okay, like I kind of agree, but he goes, who's good in the East? Like, he goes, who are you going to back? And I was like, you just never really know. You just never really know, because a team like 2 seasons ago when the Rangers won the President's Trophy, you know, when Shesterkin was dealing, they had Florida a little bit on the ropes, like down 2-1 in game 3. They were down 2-1 in the series. I mean, the Leafs kind of had them on the ropes this year as well. Like, obviously, everybody talks about game 3. It's really amazing, by the way, some teams that win the Stanley Cup, how many times they flirt with death somewhere along the way.
You have to.
Like, yeah, when someone
never play scared, but they never play scared. Like they're big boys, right? Like it's nuts to be men and just be like, not scared, don't care. I'm just gonna hit you.
So before the season started, I think when we did that show with Carlo, I mentioned that if there's a high total out there, I'm blanket betting the under. If your goal totals is in the 50s, if you're Pasternak at 52.5 or Matthews at 57.5,
that's silly.
Kaprizov, who would have crushed his point total. But remember, injuries are a real thing. But now I don't think it's just injuries. We may see a significant amount of stars play 10 fewer games than the full total because of teams trying to get them where they need to be. If I was thrilled about that last season, now obviously you're not going to get this until some point throughout the summer. I don't know when it is. But I'll be blanket betting those unders once again. That's a guarantee, because when I went back and looked, I lost on maybe like 2 or 3 guys. Somebody like Zibanejad, he had a 79.5 point. The scam star, Jason Robertson, had a 90 point over-under. I just went under. And
the more money they make, the better the under is, because that's how much more money they get off LTIR.
Look at that. That's what he's here for, just to reinforce me with something that I didn't even factor into my original equation. Looking back at this past season, for everything you gave out, like on your channel, like, I mean, when I look at season to season, it's always like 3 seasons ago was the first time here in the U.S. that you could just even add one player prop to like a money line or something like that. So if I liked teams, and, you know, you could take Tampa to win was minus 190, but all of a sudden I can take Braden Point for a single point. Now it's even money. I was, whistling Dixie about that for that season because it was the first time ever. And then obviously the line combos started to be introduced. They were on 1 or 2 sites. Then Draftkings added them. Now Draftkings de-juiced them. Is there anything that you look back at this last season and saying like that was my kind of money maker, and that's what I'm hoping we can kind of weasel into next season and kind of ride that wave a little bit?
Like, I was running the world champion stuff, and on a Botano account, and like
That's a random Canadian account for some guy in Pittsburgh. It's a random Canadian account that a few people can access.
but they have everybody, right? So I'm not saying this is a moneymaker thing, but just to see like what odds, like I was playing every fourth line, even early in the playoffs. Like, cause they were like 60-1 for the three guys to get a point. I don't care if it's 10 minutes. That's worth it every time. Any three guys together at like first line guys, any power play one, three guys together, 200 or better, right? Like once it's under that, you're kind of like, maybe not, but 200 or better, top three guys, if they're all in power play one, pretty good. That's where you go. But I mean, we were getting the Kings line, like the Dano. Oh, come on, Josh.
Dano,
Moore, and Fogle. Like that was nuts. 14-1. It was hitting every other day. The Marchand, Duchesne, Seguin line when it was healthy. Like those were the big ones.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Marchman. Yeah, those were absolute 9-1, 7.5-1s.
What was the playoff total once again on the Marchand line that you said before? If you played it every game,
over 50 units.
I know. I want you to understand that.
There's only 26 games.
I don't watch any sports betting shows. I don't know who anybody is. You send this to your whatever guy and then tell him, give me the football version of the thing you can just do every single game for the playoffs and it's up 50 units. And not some miraculous, like, oh, you just got some massive.
You lost 49 but hit
one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking about something that consistently every single week you check, wow, up considerably, up considerably, up considerably. That's why you kind of got to run this until it's dry, despite the fact that a lone maniac somewhere out there blamed Josh for the odds getting worse on dress. He said it was Josh's
ruined
fault.
The edges.
He goes, how dare you help people from a position where you actually give out sports betting picks? How dare you actually tell them something that might be able to help them?
That is a funny thing, right? Like giving away edges.
All right, you should be happy you got a guy like Josh because there are others, and I'm a real rat bastard when it comes to what I share versus what I don't. Josh will tell you.
Yeah, you always got something else in the pipeline too. You're never dry. You're never sitting there holding nothing. That's for sure. But like my job
in
is
case
that.
I'm tied to that sportsbook chair, and there, those Caesars and BetMGM is interrogating me, and they go, "What do you got? We're gonna cut you." I'm like, all right, Caesars. If you do the under 6.5 with the over shots on goal, you got a glitch where it prices it over, which was a real thing earlier this year.
Sure.
Yeah, so I always try to keep one in my back pocket in the unlikely event that I get interrogated casino style by a theoretical Pesci and Robert De Niro. So.
But in terms of like those stacks, I was running them with Bet99. Like I was working with the book to put it out and they would just boost it. Their odds were as good as anybody at the time. They never went crazy nuke, scorched earth, and went Draftkings like Draftkings did twice. They were good in that spot. And they were still boosted, and they were good. I mean, I think they're only $50 limits, but at the end of the day, not everybody out there is betting $100. Still profitable, but it's just hockey. There were so many things about it. It's hockey, so the liquidity in the market isn't as high as the other stuff. And it got to run from like, where were we? Like beginning of December, like when we were playing it every day, like everyone, all the way to pretty much almost the end of the to games 82. Remember game 82? Remember that day?
Remember that when we were scared of the last month? We're like, no, that was the best month.
Nuts. Game 82 was crazy. Philadelphia down the end with like Cates and Forrester.
Oh my God. It was, I almost wish it was a worse month because, you have everyone when the year starts. All right, I remember why they're checking their little book of how they did and they're expecting that to restart once again. But I will say this. Yes. There were DraftKings tomfoolery. What are you going to do? We hammered them massively, and they got waxed, so they got scared, moved the lines to an awful position. Now maybe you're coming back a little bit. But the reason I'm hopeful, usually with all sports books, you only see features added, not taken away, usually. Now, the most encouraging part to me is, I track these every single year. Fanatics adding way more features, and then even adding point props and assists and multi-point props, 2 points, all those things.
Yeah.
The fact that DraftKings midway through the year added the multi-point props. So now you have Fanatics adding point props, Fanduel with the worst odds known to man that still have their point props.
Their 2-pointers aren't terrible.
2-pointers aren't terrible on FanDuel. Yeah, write this all down or just come back to this video and bookmark it. Well, while I'm on that, why don't you like this video, help a guy, and then subscribe and click the notifications, do all those things that would theoretically help me, that I don't want to hire some YouTube guy to lie to me and say, no, I did all those things when he probably just did the same things I would do. Yeah, I'm on one today. But where I'm excited is like even BetMGM, the known worst sports book to man when it comes to the NHL, who just allows you to pick goal scorer and like who wins and by how much. Even they added shots on goal. Now it's nothing, but they added something which allows you to at least dream, because if every sportsbook has these things, I mean, it's just like when WWF had to outcompete WCW. We saw the best product, the consumer wins. So if we see more of these books add these features, which have been the most beneficial for us, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. And that random guy who just is going to blame Josh when anything goes poorly in his life, he won't have so
I go
much to
straight to
their
socials and just like see all their replies. See, like I would be terrified if it was like a guy and I went to his replies and they were all like pleasantries to people and like I was the one that pissed them off. But 100% of the time you just go to their replies and they just like, it's like racism, bigotry, misogyny. You're like, okay, it checks out.
Here's what I know, that if this person was on the street and said that, and you saw a guy on the street and he was just clicking and shaking like, hey, Josh, you ruined it for me, you wouldn't care at all, because you'd be like, all right, yeah, that's just a maniac. Oh, no, yes, sir, I'm sorry. But online, we tend to believe, oh, well, this is a normal, coherent, rational individual. He clearly constructed proper sentences. That guy's out of his mind. He's clicking in the middle of the street like one of those Last of Us mushroom people. So I wouldn't worry so much about that, but that's not anything.
And here's something I've learned in the gambling world. Like, I'm not a professional gambler. I get a salary covers. It's a great job. It's fantastic. And I bet to the side. It's amazing. I wouldn't want betting just to be my only source of income, because man, that is a grind. That is a hard grind. And you know that anything, Andy, that you go from like what most people see to like behind the curtain stuff to find accounts to get down. Like that is the second part. The picks is the easy part, which is funny. It's finding accounts. It's getting down. It's having.
Yeah. That's one thing I've always wanted to tell you people. And you really, on the Patreon, a lot of people had their Bet365 accounts limited, restricted. Why? Because they won too much. They go, you can't do this. It's just this moment where they're learning what the reality is for anybody who wins. And that is, you're not allowed to be a winner. You're not allowed to be a winner. Now, you are, but you got to come into this thing. You don't just need winning bets. You got to defend yourself from getting your accounts cracked. And that is a harsh reality. Now, the only thing that I could say with a fair degree of confidence is the overwhelming majority of anybody who's watching this video is a dirty, filthy parlay pirate. They don't even know what a straight bet is. So the odds are you've built up your account so much to the point where you are flagged as a donkey. And I don't say this as something to mock you. Your early donkey, who would have thought that your early donkey plays would have been good for you in the long run? That's just like eating cannolis and Twinkies and every dessert under those Entenmann cakes, those Entenmann cookies. I don't even know if you know any of the things I'm talking about right now, Josh, but that's like saying I ate all that and it was great for me in the long run because it ended up being healthier for me. That's what betting like a donkey is, if you eventually turn the page and become a smart bettor and you do things like these line combos. You've disguised yourself as an absolute donkey, so they're not going to see your bet. Am I giving you advice? I don't know, but I'm just letting you know the truth. I know donkeys who have turned it around and now they're riding free. They're not being detected because they were a donkey for so long. So,
and I want to get this off before we were talking about the account stuff and what people think of you. And another thing that I've learned in the space, if I lose, I'm losing my own money. I'm losing my money, like that comes out of, that could be going to things in my family, right? Like that's the thing. So no one fucking helps you out at anything or any situation where it's you. Like at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, it's us versus the books. No, it's not. Because when you lose, no one's out there handing out you things. At the end of the day, it's just you and your money and you building your bank account up and getting it before it's gone. So don't always take that approach of like, it's us versus them. Get your fucking money as much as you can and get out.
The way you said that reminded me, when my picks are correct, it's we did it. We
Yeah.
when they're wrong, it's you.
Yeah. It's like the dog. It's like the household dog that shits on the carpet and your mom says, "Look what your dog did."
Yeah, man. All right, then one last thing before we bid you guys adieu for the final curtain call here on this 2024-2025 season. I thought we would do that classic thing you do. You pull up the odds for next year and just pretend like what we saw the previous year is going to happen exactly again last year. But then again, I guess that worked out well for you last year if you took Florida over Edmonton in the finals. What do you know? Panthers and Oilers are at the top, followed by the favorites of those. Hey, at least Carolina got knocked back to 900. I guess all the criticism. So when you look at this, the first thing I look at is there's not a damn chance the Devils should be on this first wave of the screen. But what do you think going into next year?
I mean, I wouldn't be tying up my money for an entire 12 calendar months at plus 900.
Never. We're just being doesn't make any fans sense. Here.
I know, but like Toronto 21, better than the Devils at 20-1. The Kings at 20-1, decent run. And the Jets at 25-1, a lot better than the Sens at 30-1. Rangers are sneaky if Shesterkin gets going. I don't want anything to do with the Capitals. And then the Wild is the only thing on that lower list. But I think they haven't taken enough lumps. The Rangers have taken lumps. The Jets, good God, have they taken lumps. And I think that's a precursor for how it goes. I think the Jets have a team that if they face Florida, those middle six lines that they have, like the Lowry line, they can play physical. I don't think they can finish as well as Florida can, but Toronto at 20-1 does stand out. It's a super stand as a Toronto fan.
No,
and
the
like Jets at 25-1.
Toronto, there's something weird that I like about them right now. So they brought in the coach who's a little bit different.
Yes.
They showed a willingness, like in game 6, to win these lower scoring games. It's weird. If you have kind of that sixth sense, you could feel when a team is going in the right direction just by the way the playoff series feel. And despite the repeated playoff performances, you never felt that with Toronto. It always just felt like they were losing in a non-playoff fashion year after year after year. Yes, there were those 2 absolute beatings, the same way Edmonton caught 2 absolute beatings. But what you saw in several games throughout that series is a slight change of the way things are going. Then it's a weird addition by subtraction. You get rid of one more of those soft perimeter outside floaters in Marner, and you brought in Tanev and you brought in the coach, and the philosophy shifting a little bit. I swear to you,
Shanahan's gone too, right? The man pulling the strings is gone too. His system's out.
It looked a little more like a winner to me.
It was a good team,
and I always need to see some sort of committing to defense and like winning a game 1-0, 2-0, and we weirdly saw that from them. So I mean, they won
if they have Stolars that entire series, it could be different too, right? They lose Stolars in game 1 to Sam Bennett.
Yeah, 1 overtime goal, and they're one just dinky off of skating in. They're up 3-0 in that series.
The Dallas Stars at 10-1 and Toronto 20-1 doesn't make any sense because I think probability wise they should be the same.
100%.
That's a gauntlet in the West. It's still a tough West. Like I said, is anybody good? No, but they're all kind of the same, right? Like to face Edmonton, to face Colorado, to face Vegas, those are tough. To face Winnipeg, to face the Kings, to face Minnesota, those are all tough tests.
Did the Blues just go on a random late season run, or was that like a sign of them turning into a contender?
I hope they don't get rid of Kyrou. I really like Kyrou. Thomas and Kyrou was a good combination.
They can't get rid of him.
I know. Hopefully not. We'll see. Binnington has to probably do the Olympics again. We'll see how that goes. But St. Louis is probably the best 9 seed, 8 seed in either conference.
Yeah, I mean they finished the season on absolute fire, so it's just weird, interesting to see how they're going to start next year. All right, Alex, go down a little bit. Let's see your New York Islanders / mine. But whatever, I'm just kind of looking at the long shots down here. So Canadians
St. Louis
are going
50
right back to the bottom of the barrel, next year.
60-1. No. I know the Blue Jackets have a lot of money to spend, right? I don't think with the free agent class that you can get that good quickly. Hopefully they get Jet Greaves playing a lot more this year than they did last year because he was great down the stretch too, but 75-1 is a long way for that. I wouldn't mind see what the odds are for Columbus to make the playoffs because the East is still an easier gauntlet for those teams to sneak in.
They're pretty entertaining, by the way, if you remember.
100%.
They were getting these wacky games. All right, Alex, let's see some of those. Yeah, let's bet on who's going to win the Vezina next year right now in June when the Stanley Cup happened like a week ago. We obviously know about your, maybe people don't know, but like you really like deep shots, like your Sam Bennett play. Like,
yeah, if I'm taking shots
I
here.
had him at plus. See, it's weird. I like to take a good chunk of what I think is going to happen. Like I had a bunch of McDavid at all points where I could. And then at that point, it was easy for me to take multiple other ones along the way because McDavid was like so far the favorite. Yeah. So I got Bennett at plus 2,000, but that pales in comparison to what you got him at. So I know you like to go really hunting, but do you look like, is plus 800 a good value on the guy that was leading for MVP? Or is it like for you? No. There better be multiple zeros or I'm not looking.
Yeah, multiples, especially early in the playoffs too, right? Where you can kind of go when you're looking at this.
I'm talking about here, like here.
No, 80. Like Quinn Hughes on this list might be the most valuable player to his team. Like that's how I could maybe convince myself somewhere on that line because without Quinn Hughes, Vancouver does absolutely nothing. But they have to get back to the playoffs to even sniff this award. Connor McDavid. The problem with McDavid and Draisaitl is you're probably not going to shut them both. You're not going to shut them down both, right? One's going to go, one's not going to go. Kaprizov's coming off injury. If they do get into the playoffs, he could rest too. McKinnon is in the rest mode. Kucherov could be in the rest mode. Pasternak looked incredible for the Czechs at the World Hockey Championship too. I mean, obviously it was a pretty piss poor.
No, you need to see how he ended the season.
No, that line's like
a level of fire that
I know, but no one was on his line. Like, and it was him and who was his center?
Zaka, right?
Zaka, and yeah, it's
Geeky.
Yes, it's Zaka and Geeky, right? Like he's not even playing with anybody. He's still, I think,
he needs to make the playoffs, though, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, click Norris.
Norris is. I mean, the only thing there you like is Werenski at 12-1. I love Harley, but a full season of Heiskanen isn't going to help him.
Yeah.
Bouchard, I don't think he's winning. I don't think he plays at that level.
Did you just say Morrissey?
No, but he could if he's healthy.
Go down a little bit. Any hidden? Come on, Sergachev's not winning it. Yeah, these people truly can't win it. They cannot win it.
Beating Hughes and beating McCarr is just it's
too hard.
Yeah.
All right, how about Vezina?
Your guy's probably the best bet. Where is he? Oh, he's number 2 betting favorites at 700 now.
Damn.
I know.
Well, yeah.
But you can be a losing goalie. That's the thing. Like in this market, like if you're Lucas Dostal and maybe Anaheim does make some trades, coaching changes.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was someone like when we were betting line stacks, like I never felt good facing Anaheim and Lucas Dostal. And you're getting shitty prices because it was Anaheim.
Yeah,
but he was good.
He's nasty.
And Linus Allmark and Montembeault aren't terrible at those prices either. And Gustafsson had some sick runs this year.
He was close. Yeah.
Aiden Hill at 40-1, Binnington at 50-1. Yeah, I think this one's pretty wide open. Go the Calder, but you're not going to go get Demidov, I think, at the top. Yeah.
I leave this one to you and Carlo.
You just have to wait to see what happens with the draft and where guys go and if guys get opportunities, right? Like we were getting Lane Hudson before he was power play 1. He's 8-1 or somewhere in that range. Interesting to see.
So we learned that playoffs definitely has something to do with it.
Yeah, but I was saying last year, I was on the Stankoven train where it's like, oh, he's got so much extra experience than everybody else, and he gets big minutes. You're like, no, it's a spot. And I think this market more than any, you can sit here and wait, and it's one of the slower movie markets that exists. Like you can get.
Yeah.
I got Lane Hudson when I knew it was kind of almost locked up at like plus 240.
Interesting. Fortunately for us, we will have plenty of time to go over this, but I just wanted to thank you for your contributions throughout the season, and obviously your continued contributions on the Patreon. You're helping people out with baseball picks. That seems to be going relatively well. I don't know a single person you put out there, but I make sure to get those bets in every single day. And sometimes I even wait for the odds to get worse. Why is that? I'm playing account defense. I'm literally sacrificing odds on sports I don't care about to make sure I'm still clean for the ones that I do. Am I telling you to do that? No, I'm just walking you through my sick brain. But Josh, thanks for coming on here. This will officially conclude the 2024-2025 season. Thank you guys all for being a part of it once again. I'm sure I'll concoct some new scams going into next year, but the only way you will know that and when those come out, and if I do futures videos, if and when, maybe, who knows, well, maybe we'll talk about some football stuff. We know that's not too far away, but like I said, the only way you will know is if you subscribe to the YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed. And Josh, if there's anything you want to say, it's been a while, so maybe if you want to.
Great NHL season. Great NHL season. Like, it is more than you could ever imagine. It won't exist again. That run last year in NHL won't ever exist again, probably in anybody's betting life, honestly.
How do you like that for some honesty? All right, you have all these, no, it's going to be the biggest. No, you're never having a year like that again. Yeah, you're never having a year like that again. And that's the type of honesty that you get around here. And you're not getting
James Cook 4.5 total TDs again this year.
3.5.
Oh, 3.5. That's
3.5. He led the entire NFL in touchdowns, in rushing touchdowns. Absolutely insane. Now, I really don't know what your schedule is over the summer. So if you want to tell people what shows, if and when you do them.
I'm not going back to work until July 8th right now. Hockey was a long season. Yeah, going to the river, hanging out like my wife was like, who are you hanging out at the river with? I'm like,
no, that's the MILF hunter. That's the MILF hunter. Yeah. That is who that guy is right there.
Just showing up and seeing that guy at the river, going there. Oh, dangerous. But now it's that football grind, bud. Now it's like to catch up to that football where it's like, okay, draft, position, depth chart. You just have to catch up because it's a competitive space.
All right, well, while you're doing that, I'm just going to have some podcasts about absolute tomfoolery. That's what has been nice to have some time to do this year. I started writing out some stuff. So
you're still here, bud. You're still here.
Yeah. And I got some things that I'm ready to talk about. And we're going to start topic 1 with Ozempic and these advertisements. And what you would feel if you thought you were with a hot chick, but then you went into their cabinet and you saw the Ozempic. Does it take away from them? This is something I'm going to get in some hard-hitting topics, whether Ozempic actually makes you like, do I want to be with this chick? It was
fungus. That's the fungicide. Finding fungicide in the cabinet.
Is Ozempic a fake hot? Because you know it doesn't roll over. Oh, my God. All right, guys. I will hopefully see you for that. If not, I will see you for the next sports video, whenever that is. Take it easy, Josh. Thank you once again.
Cheers.